Hello, beautiful people. I'm here again, and I have a friend. This is the first Black, African American that I have met in New Zealand. This is Adonis. Say hi, Adonis.
Hello.
You're like a newscaster. Hello
Yeah.
there. I have asked him to come on my video today because I'm curious about his experiences in New Zealand. But first, do you call yourself Black?
I do call myself Black, and the reason for that is because in America, it is culturally appropriate and respectable to call ourselves Black. Several decades ago, I think as an African American community, we wanted to have a name that we could identify with that wasn't the label of colored or Negro, which doesn't really seem relevant.
Yeah, it's kind of old names now.
Today. So
yeah.
I do identify with Black. And I have heard comments from Kiwis that see it as a derogatory term when in fact it is not a derogatory term.
Yeah, and this is what I said in a previous video. The word Black is a capital B. Oh, it's backward for you. Capital B. Because it is a cultural identity for Black Americans. Black does not talk about the color of our skin necessarily. It's a cultural identity. It talks about your heritage. It talks about certain things that you do, certain things, certain phrases, certain words that you understand that has different meaning to maybe other Americans would understand it. So there's a lot of things in Black culture, African American culture, that are unique to our culture, right? So
Exactly.
Yeah. So saying that I'm Black, and that's why I named this videos African American in New Zealand, because if I said Black, then there's so many different understandings of what that means.
Exactly.
But if it was just for Black Americans, they would know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
So anyway, Adonis, what brought you to New Zealand? How'd you get here?
So I got here about 4 months ago, and prior to that, I was looking to explore and travel to a destination that had pristine beauty, beautiful lands, and beautiful people. And after doing my research, I realized that New Zealand was a good fit for me, and Wellington in particular. I love sort of a small town vibe with a bit of the city. So that there's something to do, but I don't like a gigantic metropolis.
That's Wellington, yeah.
True. And so Wellington fits my personality and what I like to do. I love food. I'm a foodie. I love going to the beach. Oriental Bay is amazing.
Yeah.
Just has everything.
Yeah.
I love Wellington and I love New Zealand so far. Yeah.
So when you were, we should probably say how we met, because when you were getting ready to come, you saw one of my videos.
I did. Because I was really curious about what my experience would be as someone from America who's coming over, who also happens to be Black. Just wondering if there were other people like me who were from America and African American, and what their experiences might have been in terms of understanding the culture, the similarities and differences of the way Americans kind of do things and the way that New Zealanders, Kiwis, do things, and just kind of just looking at different perspectives, comparing.
Yeah, because I was the little, when I started to research about coming, I was realizing, oh my gosh, because I could have gone to school in Christchurch or Auckland, and so I was like, how do I make that decision? I have no idea what either city is like, what the people are like, how they're going to take me.
Right.
Do they think all Black Americans are like in gangs and like gonna jump them, or like I wasn't sure what the perspective was and anyone's experience, and I didn't find anything that actually gave me a good idea, which is why I made the video about a year later after I was here. I said, I'm sure that, and I want to encourage other Black Americans to travel and to come and all of that kind of stuff. So good.
And I found it very helpful. I found it very encouraging. A lot of the Kiwis that I've met so far are very friendly, very welcoming, and it's just a great community, a great culture of welcomeness.
Yeah, totally. Hospitality is like very high, and just people inviting you over and saying, "Come and stay with us," or welcoming, feeling welcomed is a big value among Kiwi culture, isn't it?
Yeah. And what I found most helpful, I think, with your videos is that it gave me a lot of education in terms of the culture, the Maori culture, knowing what to expect, things that I could do on my own in order to understand the culture before I even arrived to New Zealand. So that was another big, I think, plus for me.
Yeah. Yay, I didn't pay him to say that. But I'm glad it was helpful because, I just thought it was hopeful that it would be helpful. But, so what kinds of things have you experienced that you've kind of gone, what?
Well,
what's that about?
There's been a few. I think, for one, in the U.S., we call bathrooms, here they call bathrooms toilets, but in the U.S., we call them bathrooms. And so that was an interesting difference that
I'm going to the toilet, which
I've gotten used to.
Yeah, I'm going to the toilet, which makes me feel like I'm now visualizing you on the toilet. Like, it's so specific to what you shall be doing in there that it's just like, oh gosh, I don't want to think about you on the toilet. But that's what people say. I'm going to the toilet.
So it's just been an adjustment, and I've gotten used to saying it though.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
Another term that I am getting into the practice of saying more often is sweet is. A lot of people say, sweet as. Yeah. So it's another cool little.
That's one of mine that I decided that there's a few phrases that I'm just like, oh, I just don't want to say it because I don't understand it. Sweet as what? I thought people were swearing. And I don't like swearing, so I won't. I thought people were saying sweet ass.
Oh.
Right? And then initially when I first got here, I thought I were like sweet, donkey. Or big donkey. Or, because they were saying as, A-S, not A-S-S.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, what? Why is everyone? And then I have to think about, oh no, they didn't say that.
Right.
So I was like, it's a really weird thing.
Yeah.
So what else?
I've also found the selection of clothing to be quite interesting. There's definitely a different style here in New Zealand than in the U.S.
There is.
I feel like there's a lot of positive aspects to that. I think though the clothes are more expensive here, some of the shirts that I've found are quite stylish, and then some not so stylish. Yeah. It's just different. Yeah. I think there's a bit of a European influence, a European flair.
Yeah, and I think there's also like a lot of influence, like a lot of the clothing, at least for women's clothing, I've found comes from Australia. Like there's a store here, but it's actually an Australian store that has a store also in New Zealand, kind of thing.
Exactly.
And so the fashion, this is okay. I just was talking to Jeff, my husband, about this. So for women's clothing, even though New Zealand culture is more acceptable of nudity, women's clothing is more big and flowy and doesn't show shape. Yeah. In the U.S., we're not as open with nudity. Like, we're not as open as far as, like, commercials and, in our media.
But the dress is less conservative.
But my goodness, but people do not, they show everything, right? So it's so funny how it's opposite.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It's really, at least even showing shape. Yeah. Like, in the U.S., you would see women wearing something that shows a little bit more shape. Whereas, like, here, I only can find like really big clothing or. I've
made that observation as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I'm just spending all day checking out women.
Can you show more shape, please? No. It's true. How do you find men's clothing? Is it?
Well, I think it's interesting because there are a lot of shirts, like button-up shirts, that have sort of the design of very floral and a lot of different color patterns. More so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. There seems to be a bit more, color patterns in the shirts. I don't know if that's one thing I could
That's so funny because I find women's clothing is less colorful. Yeah, less. So if there's a Pacific Island kind of feel to it, maybe a lot of color, but floral pattern, a lot of floral pattern. And then if it's not, then it's a lot of beige, a lot of black, a lot of navy, you know, cream, just very kind of neutral colors.
Yeah, I've noticed that in women's clothing more so. It's more neutral, where in guys it's complete opposite. Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah, something
I don't know. We got to figure that out. So how have you adjusted? So one of the things that I read when I was coming here is that it's hard to get in friend groups because they are, so a lot of New Zealand small town, and they have their groups already formed, and so someone new coming in, it's really hard. How have you found that?
Yeah, well, a lot of my coworkers, so I'm a registered nurse, and so there are coworkers that I work with who talk about being in the same friend group that they've had since they were in primary school.
Real talk.
And so it can be harder for someone who's moving from a different country and being able to mix and mingle with people and to develop good relationships within those friend groups. But what I found very helpful is being able to find opportunities to go to different, events in town. I went on to meetup.com.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that offers a lot of opportunity to meet people and do activities that other individuals have similar interests with. Like, for me, I like to hike. They call that tramping here, so I like to go tramping. And so there's a meetup where a lot of people in their 30s will go, and they'll go on tramps, and you can meet people that way. Also, finding a couple flatmates to live with, maybe when you first arrive to New Zealand. I chose not to live by myself right away, just because I wanted to have a couple people that I could sort of get to know firsthand, and it's also cheaper that way. And I was lucky enough. And in case
you end up in a ditch somewhere, someone misses you.
Right, exactly. And I was
not that it's very safe here actually compared to the U.S., but like I had a couple thoughts about that. I'm like, no one knows me in this country.
Right.
Like, if I go missing or something happens, if I break my leg on the side of tramping here, nobody will know.
Exactly. So that's another plus as well.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have flatmates that are really cool, and we do a lot of things together.
Yeah.
And, we'll have dinner. We'll go out and have a beer or something. Once a week. So
yeah, that is good. I've decided that the key to making friends here is you have to make your own fun. You have to. It was the same in Phoenix, because people would come from LA and say there's nothing to do. There are things to do. You just have to go find them, and you have to kind of create your own experience. You can't rely on one, obviously having the old friends or people you know, right? And you can't rely on everything being in your face all the time. Come do this, come do that. You have to kind of
put yourself out there.
You have to put yourself out there. Which you already have by coming to this country, right? So then you just got to keep going and kind of sometimes you kind of have to just invite yourself over.
Exactly. And that's totally fine. People are typically very cool with that.
Yeah, they are because the culture, and we were just talking about this, is a little bit more shy, more reserved, more laid back and more sit back kind of thing. And so you coming forward and saying like, oh, let's go do that. Let's go do this. Oh, I'll come over and I'll do this. They'll be like, oh, okay, come on over.
Right. It's totally fine. I almost think they prefer that versus them.
Because then they don't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been really fun.
Yeah,
we might have to do another video
We'll
together.
do a part 2 eventually.
Yeah, we'll have to do a part 2.
Yeah.
After so much time we've gone behind and seen how you're doing and stuff. Yeah. Maybe talk about your ideas of dating.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And I also had an idea of actually doing a frequently asked questions. So I get a lot of questions of New Zealanders saying, why this, why that, watching my videos. Now, these videos that I do are for African Americans looking to come to New Zealand, right? So it's specifically targeted there, but I get so many of my wonderful New Zealand brothers and sisters watching these videos, which is really cool, but I get a lot of the same questions, right? So I wanted to do a video to answer that as well. So I might have you in on that one as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to.
So, all right, guys, until next time. See ya.
Bye.